Hi, hello, I'm Sam Harrison. I read, review, and discuss fantasy and science fiction books. Today we have a read, review discussion, I guess, of The Wandering Inn, chapter 35 in book 1, volume 1, volume 1. So this is a Ryoka POV chapter, and this is one that I've been excited for a while, because this is when Ryoka and the Horns of Hammarand come to Liscor, which is where Erin and all the rest of the cast, essentially, of The Wandering Inn are all based. And you find out that actually, so they're going to meet Pisces, right? But they're not just going to meet Pisces, they're going to meet him at The Wandering Inn. So already I'm hype. Ryoka goes through kind of some memories where she talks about breaking her arm. And then she is kind of met by Cheeria, who is the half-elf mage for the Horns. And she's the person who went to Wistrom, who knows Pisces. And so what she does is she gets... she has made the connection, and Pisces has agreed to help her. And at this point, I'm still kind of thinking, like, what's Pisces going to do? Because, like, he's a necromancer, and they start talking about how there's like a bad smell and stuff, and I'm like, oh my god, are they waiting for Ryoka's leg to die so he can reanimate it? And that was my prevailing theory, and I was like, this seems real gross. Like, do we want a character with a dead leg, like actually dead leg, for the rest of this series, like 9 volumes? So I'm assuming there's something else, and we do actually find out. Yes, there is something else that's going to be done, but I was definitely for the beginning being like, wow, this sucks. Like, what's going on here? So then Ryoka gets in a horse and cart, and the Horns have hired a classed driver. So he's not just any old horse and cart driver. He's got skills which enable them to travel much, much faster, because they're going like hundreds of miles in a cart. And it's going to take like a couple of days. And if you think about how fast a horse and cart can go, and how fast a car can go 100 miles, for example, a few days seems about right for a few hundred miles. So that's fun. But we don't get to spend too much of the time on this journey, because this chapter is really from Ryoka's point of view. But Ryoka is under a numbing spell during the journey, which basically kind of makes her a bit loopy. It's kind of like being under anesthetic. So she doesn't really feel the pain, but she's also kind of, she's not like 100% present. So we get a bit of discussion about what's going on with Pisces, as he's a necromancer, and the other Horns are like, oh, we're not going to deal with the necromancer. And she's like, no, the necromancer is dead, and this lad, Zell Shivertail, I think was the name, killed him. But I know a necromancer who isn't the necromancer, and he's pretty good. And she talks about how Pisces is incredibly intelligent, because he's got so many levels and so many magic skills. So, for example, he's got a ton of levels in like lower level magic skills, ton of lower levels in loads of magic skills. And she was saying that even though she's 3 times older than him, if she added together all of the levels he has in all of the magic skills, he would be, not skills with a capital S, skills, then he would actually be more powerful than she is. And she says she's 3 times older than him. She also mentions that Pisces is 20, which is the same age that Ryoka and Erin are. I believe they're all in their early 20s at the very least. Actually, Ryoka's 19, I think, because she's or 18, because she's a fresh. She hasn't started university at college yet, and she says that she never even got to step on campus as a freshman. So that must mean that she's probably like 18. Anyway, so they go through the mountain pass, and then they get through to the Liscor area, and they get to the inn, and Pisces is waiting for them. And here's the real bait and switch, right? So we're all excited. Ryoka's going to meet Eren. They're probably, one of them's going to make a reference to our world, and they'll realise that they're both American. Or maybe they'll just recognise each other's American accents. Maybe that would be a thing, because, would fantasy people have American accents? That'd probably be the first thing you'd recognise, right? But anyway, so I'm thinking, right, this is it. Bringing the characters together, the story's going to kick off, it's going to start right now, and Eren's out. She's just not home. And the Pisces is like, we can't go in the inn because Eren's not here. The innkeeper's not here. And I was like, oh my God. I really thought it was all going to start to come together, and we were going to get some more some more info on why all the people from our world are in world. But then there's also the do we want to know? Do we need to know? If you read the Walking Dead comic, Robert Kirkman always said when he was writing it, he was like, I'm never going to reveal how the zombie epidemic started and what happened in the beginning, because that ruins the mystery of it. It's much more exciting if no one really knows what's going on. And I was like, yeah, that is exciting. I'm interested in that. So what I thought was, me thinking that, I'm like, actually, do I want to know what's going on with the portals and why everyone was brought to Inworld? Maybe, maybe not. So Pisces is there, and he's like, right, I'll heal your girl, but you have to pay me a lot of money. And Chirruy's like, all right, 20 gold pieces. And he goes, all right. He goes, no, this is, and one of the other horns before this, actually, I didn't mention this, but he's like, no healer could mend this leg. And Pisces obviously twigs that, and he's like, if no healer can do it, then you're basically trapped and you have to pay whatever I charge. So Pisces is like, all right, I'll do it for 60. And they haggle back and forth, and it ends up being 40 gold pieces. And Ryoka realizes that she has only had all of her running money. She made 5 gold pieces, so this is a lot of money. And the horns, they say, we're only silver rank adventurers, we're not gold rank. So there's that to consider as well, that they're not flush. And there's also a lot of them, so the money obviously has to split many ways, and there's not even just the amount that we see, the 2 wit mages and Kalras, and I can't remember what the other guy's name is. It begins with a G. Jeria, Jeriel, who she's been calling Jerry, which is funny. So we have all of these characters, and the horns also mentioned that they left some injured that weren't able to come to Ryoka's city behind somewhere else, and so they had to go drop off and say what they're up to and what's going on, where they're going to go. So obviously the horns are quite a large adventuring band. So there's definitely some interesting stuff going on with the horns, and at the end of the chapter, we get Ryoka's like, I really owe you guys one, but we'll get to that. So eventually there's haggling, 40 gold pieces change hands, and the horns to Chirrui are like, how is this guy actually going to heal Ryoka? What's he going to do? Because he's like a necromancer, and she's not dead, it's just a leg. And Chirrui is like, in order to be a good necromancer, you have to have complete and total control over bones. And so because Ryoka's leg is a shattered bone, like that's the problem with her leg, is that the bone is fully shattered and like the shards of it are embedded in her muscle and flesh, which is why it's not healing, because it's trying to heal around those shards. And also the bone is just like, the ankle bone is not connected to the knee bone, for example. Or the shin bone is completely smashed. So that's what the issue is. But Pisces literally just lays his hands on her leg for a few seconds and concentrates. And during that process, he draws all the splinters together back to the bone as they originally were, and then reinforces the bone. So Ryoka basically goes from having like a wobbly mass of puffy flesh full of bone shards to having a working leg again that's just a bit swollen. And that's really cool. Pisces kind of walks off, and Jeriel's like, I can't believe we paid 40 pieces for that. Like, it took him seconds. Couldn't you guys have done it? And the mages in the group are like, no, we couldn't have done that in a second. We couldn't have done that in a lifetime. He's that good that he was able to do it so quickly. And then on top of that, they're like, oh, yeah, he's that good. He was able to do it so quickly, which shows how skilled he is. And also she was like, that wasn't a spell. That was just his knowledge and his ability as a necromancer that he was able to do those things. So that's really interesting. So we get like, there's kind of a threatening aura and energy from Pisces in this, which is something we're not used to, because he's kind of like almost the butt of the joke of the Wandering Inn in the first few appearances. So it's really interesting to see him from another person's point of view who knows how powerful he is. And I believe that's actually when we get told that like he's so much more powerful than Chiria, and Chiria's like very powerful mage. So it's great to see these other sides of the characters that we know so well. So like when we saw Klivich, we saw stuff from his point of view, it was like, oh, he's kind of this different character. He comes off like, I don't know, like a kind of aloof, sort of like friendly, but like standoffish almost. I don't know. He comes off kind of one way, and then you see that he's actually like a very, very skilled warrior and all this sort of stuff. So really interesting to get into that, and I like that a lot. Now, the next section is basically Ryoka's like, yeah, it's actually, it's fixed. Like, she can feel that her bone is fixed and mended. And while she's not able to, walk or run yet, she's just got to wait for the flesh to heal around it. So that's really exciting. And she kind of has like a bit of a change of heart's the wrong term. So like throughout her previous chapters with Ryoka, she's been kind of, aloof, standoffish, quiet. And in this chapter, she's like, remember what your dad told you, make eye contact, shake hands. And there's kind of that, kind of seeing that different side to her, I thought was really good. And that maybe by being kind of put on the back foot, by coming to the in-world, she's very much on the defensive the whole time, even with characters that obviously care about her, like Garia. I think it's Garia who's like her short stocky friend, and Calruz and Chiria. Like, even with these characters who clearly do like give a shit, she's been very like, oh, whatever, like and like, while in the case of Magnolia, I feel like that is kind of like sensible and reasonable, because Magnolia is definitely shady. With the horns, for example, that I don't feel that is at all warranted, but she has been that kind of rude, standoffish sort of person. Now, the thing I would say is that with Ryoka is she's showing that, and she talks about how in Japanese culture there's a special kind of bow that she said she would never do, and she doesn't do it But she says, you know, in her soul, in her heart, she is doing this incredibly deep bow, but she doesn't want to do it because it would embarrass them. So yeah, it's really good to see some, like, I like Japanese culture because, you know, I've, you know, watched anime and stuff growing up and read manga. So it is cool to see that in reflected here. Now, and I am annoyed that this chapter ends here and we don't get to see Ryoka and Eren meet. I'm assuming that that's probably going to happen soon. And I looked at the next chapter and it's a really long one. It's like a 10,000 word one. Because I wanted to read 2 today. I was like, oh, should I read 2? Should I do 2 episodes and just post, and like either just post one next week or whatever. But I'm going to try and hold off. I'm going to try and read it once a week so that I don't lose the flow that I'm in currently. But anyway, really enjoyed this one. It's like I said, it's really good to get that other view on Pisces. And also, it's great to see some kind of change and development in Ryoka's character and her relationship with the Horns. So overall, a fantastic chapter. Now, I don't know what happens in the next chapter. I know it's not a Ryoka chapter, so maybe this is what's going to be what that one's going to be what Eren is doing while the inn is closed and Pisces is healing Ryoka. But I would love it if it is they meet for the first time and they talk about how they're both from Earth. I won't know that today, though. I'll find that out next Thursday when I will speak to you guys next. Please remember to like the video, comment down below with anything that you want to talk about this week's chapter. Please do remember no future spoilers for future chapters, but anything from here on backwards is absolutely fine. And also make sure you subscribe so that you're notified when the next One Ring In video goes up, which will be next Thursday. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you next week or tomorrow if you're going to watch the weekly recap.